Welcome to People First Builders, celebrating leaders in construction who build success through their people. My name is Fletcher Wimbush, your host. I'm the CEO of Discover.ai, a performance hiring software helping small and mid-sized AEC companies solve their hardest problem, people. We help people first leaders install and execute repeatable talent acquisition systems that drive business results by hiring top performers, lowering turnover, and building world-class company cultures. Stick around to the end and you can learn more about how to become a guest on our podcast and share your story with the world. Welcome to the People First Builders podcast. I'm really excited today to have Justin Bride with me. He's the CEO and owner of Ascent Contracting. Justin launched Ascent in 2012 with the lifelong background in residential and commercial contracting. He is really passionate about guiding his clients through the building and renovation process with a honest and integrity and craftsmanship as the focus for that. He emphasizes collaboration and planning in this process, a deep understanding how people create spaces that truly feel like home. Outside of work, Justin enjoys playing guitar. You see that in the background, mountain biking, and spending time with his family. So a man of many interests. Justin, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much, Fletcher.
Awesome. So what got you into the construction business? We were having a little pregame. I know you have kind of some strong feelings about this industry. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah. A lot of people get into construction because their family was in construction. Mine was not. My dad was in finance, working for General Motors in Detroit, and he had an opportunity to move around overseas, and I spent a good deal of my childhood overseas. I was at University of Michigan for college. I always had a mechanical mind and was in the physics world, in like pre-engineering. I wasn't in their engineering school, but I didn't really see a lot of relevance as I was getting further into a physics degree. I also wasn't seeing a lot of good grades when it came to my physics degree.
That was really hard classes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was, I think I was in my last, multivariable calculus class when I was just shaking my head, wondering what I'm going to be doing with this. But I always loved conceptual physics. I loved seeing things go together and understand how they go together. At the time, keep in mind, I'm 18, 19 years old, trying to figure out what I would want to do for fun summer jobs. And there was a summer where I went to work as a mechanic's assistant because if you're in Detroit, everyone loves cars. And I, of course, did at the time. And then another summer, I had memories of living in the subdivision that I grew up in and seeing guys on roofs framing houses. And, I'm as an 8-year-old kid, I didn't know what that meant, but I thought, oh, that might be fun, be out in the sun and get to frame some houses or whatever. And I didn't even know what framing even meant.
Yeah.
So I went to work for a residential carpenter, interior and exterior, and loved it. And I had spent a summer with him, and then spent another summer working for a developer building suburbs in Ann Arbor. And that's when I thought, wow, this is such an impressive industry in that from the GC perspective, there's so many facets that need to be coordinated and need to be thought through. And I would imagine they need to be thought through at a very, very detailed level. Mm-hmm. And of course, they need to be executed by people who have great skills. What was funny is that the people with those skills that I knew, they're salty guys. They weren't the most eloquent, erudite, type guys.
But you might be surprised how smart they are.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so the fact that they were just really particular about their trade and cared about the end result and thought through all the steps, you could see that process would happen at all the levels through construction, from tradesmen building things through coordination of the entire project or the entire development. And I thought at the time, I asked my boss this is the owner of that development company, like, there's got to be, is there a world for, I'm going to be graduating in a couple of years and I have the option to change majors if need be. Is there a world for someone in with a college degree in construction. And he said, well, absolutely. And maybe like a physics degree isn't really what is necessary, but a construction management degree might be a really good switch. University of Michigan doesn't have a construction management degree, so I ended up switching schools to get one. But yeah, 2.5 years later, I left with a construction management degree. Uh, and it all started from those visions of seeing people do work on a house and then realizing what that really meant and what the industry was, what it comprised of,
Yeah.
and all of it spoke to me. I got out of college with the intention of fixing and flipping some homes, and I was fortunate enough to have my parents co-sign on some loans. So when I was 23, 24, 25, had several houses I was purchasing, trying to do the work, fixing it, having panic attacks, and calling up
Yeah.
my dad asking why he would ever entrust me with this type of responsibility. Um,
So hands-on and entrepreneurial from day one. I mean, as a small, kid, you were like, hey, getting out there and like walking across the roof in this kind of
yeah,
precarious situation and being out there and getting your hands dirty and then applying. I mean, you were no dummy if you're going for a physics degree, but and then applying, merging those two things together. I mean, construction is just a great kind of symphony of those two things, right?
yeah, it really is. It's a great outlet for all of that. Because yeah, everyone has the opportunity to be able to dive into the details of whatever they're creating and think about not only how they come together, but how they actually work from like a mechanics perspective.
Yeah.
And then ideally, if you like enjoy that and understanding how it works, you get to be able to share that with the next person you're training. Whether or not it's in the design level or at the tradesman level or at the homeowner when you get to explain things to homeowners.
Yeah.
So construction was a perfect industry for me. I fortunately before the 2008 Lehman Brothers Bear Stearns crash, was able to sell my houses, and I was about to get married, so I went to work as a commercial
Okay.
project manager. Frankly, I wasn't confident enough in my project management skills being a 24-year-old kid, 25-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I wanted to get some better experience, lest I make a big mistake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm a pretty risk adverse guy, and I try to take risks
For,
calculatedly.
for a
And
guy got into fix and flip right out of college.
yeah, yeah. So I've been really, really fortunate, and have had like a guiding hand over me to not make mistakes and to maybe even bail me out of the mistakes I make before they get disastrous. And I've just been really fortunate to be in good situations where 7 years later, after working for two really great building companies, especially one that puts so much of an emphasis on the value of customer service and
Yeah.
then and client retention from a commercial perspective. I set out to start Ascent with the idea of being able to bring a high level of commercial level project management to residential clients, um, in order to give them a construction experience that is hopefully the best they'll ever have. And I knew at the time when I would think about when I was fixing and flipping houses, how chaotic of an industry the residential world can
Yeah.
be for a lot of reasons, and I've thought about those reasons for years and years now. um, um, and why the commercial industry has so many checks and balances to make sure it's not so chaotic, but the residential
Yeah.
world doesn't. So our hope is to be able to bring a little bit of method to the madness
Yeah.
and some stability
What
in the residential
I think
clients.
we've all either been through an experience, and actually one of my construction, he does he's a homeowner rep, right? So, and he's been in the construction business his whole life, and he told me a funny story. He's like, we hired this contractor to remodel our house, and and like, I don't know, a month after we signed the contract, we started the process, we ran into somebody and we said, oh yeah, we hired these guys to do that. And they were like, oh no, like, why'd you do that? Right. And
Yeah,
sure enough, the project became a disaster. He's like, even him, he should know better. Right. He's a pro at this.
yeah,
So we've all had those experiences or know somebody who has hired a contractor to work on their home or their residential or some project, any project, and it not go well. Um, so how are you, uh, changing that narrative, right? In your business, you mentioned a little bit about, hey, let's apply some of these more sophisticated processes and methods that are applied in this more commercial contracting business, where I'm assuming their clients have much higher demands. We're dealing much higher dollars. There's much smaller margin for error, right? More sophisticated operations. How are you transferring those ideas to the residential space?
Yeah. So there are tools that are available to make, in terms of sophistication, in order to be able to streamline the project management um, process. Builder Trend, Co-Constructor, I think was bought out by Builder Trend,
Yeah.
and Procore. Those tools exist and they can be really helpful, especially for a company of ours that's trying to scale, when we, instead of having to teach the ins and outs and make sure that every step of project management is understood by each one of our project managers or superintendents. Builder Trend and software does a good job of being able to kind of provide that next step, so that not every step has to be spelled out by a project manager's supervisor, boss, whatever
Yeah.
the case is.
Yeah.
Um,
So adopting some technology tools that are been tailored to this residential space, and those are all partners of our organization. So we, work with a lot of clients who are using those
yeah.
tools. There's also an adoption period, though. I mean, just because you have the tool, that doesn't automatically magically do it for you, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. So what I was going to say is that, like, those tools can be helpful, but like the uh, the the way that we're able to bring a better experience to homeowners who are looking for that really don't have much to do with the tools that we use. It's all the intention that we have in understanding the homeowner's perspective, and maybe the disadvantage that they're at as a homeowner in the residential world versus the advantage that a developer has in a commercial world.
Yeah.
And and understanding that, and trying to, instead of trying to take advantage of that weakness that the homeowner, not weakness, that disadvantage that the homeowner has, for my benefit, uh, be cognizant of it, and really provide a better service, knowing that they're in a difficult place. And what I mean by that is that developers in the commercial world have been through this time and again. They
Yeah.
do projects over and over and over. A homeowner might remodel a house once. They
Yeah.
might remodel and they might build a house maybe once. It's just there's such a minority of people who actually go into that type of project.
Yeah.
And to consider that they are doing this with, commercial developers are going to have business loans, they're going to have venture capitalists, whatever the case is, to be able to fund their project. Homeowners are commonly relying on either construction loans or home equity lines of credits or cash on hand, maybe family money, whatever the case is. But it's normally the biggest amount of money that they'll ever transact for something that isn't actually built yet.
Yeah.
When they've bought their home, they're putting a 10% or 20% down on it, and they get that home right there.
Yeah.
But in our case, they're paying us to be able to build this product, um, without it even existing yet, just an
Yeah.
idea. And so we have to start with, and I hope that if anyone who listens to this, I hope that any general contractor understands that their role is not to just build some product for a client, but it's to realize that, um, the amount of trust and hope that this client has placed in us as responsible, executors of their vision, is just it's just so important. And
Yeah.
if we start with that mindset, everything falls into place.
Yeah.
That's our only real secret sauce.
Creates this like intentional way of operating that's focused on their emotional needs and desires versus
Yeah.
maybe our own, right? And it's always this kind of concept of, if you're more worried about the other person, then good things are going to happen. If you're focused on serving them both, their needs, but really emotional needs, then
Mhm.
you know the rest of that relationship will no longer be transactional, but it'll be a rewarding relationship, and be guided by the right things. And that becomes the mission, right? The mission statement. If you're ever in flux or in question on what to do next, you can just go back to that and say, well, is it meeting this intent? Is it, is this going to serve them the right way? And if the answer is no, then do something different.
Right.
you know,
Absolutely.
don't do that.
So all of us have to be Relational, we have to be adaptive and versatile and responsive and being able to pivot whenever there's any sort of change. And like that's part of construction anyway. There's
Yeah.
so many changes that come into play and so many mishaps. And that each one of our team members have to be able to pivot and adapt to new construction related situations on a daily basis, problems that
Yeah.
come up, but understanding how to relate with client A versus B versus C, who might just operate totally different. We have clients who love typing emails and looking at spreadsheets
Yeah.
and are very methodical. We have other clients who scroll a lot and text a lot and
Yeah.
when and don't really have a good understanding of how to read plans or like
Yeah.
understand what they're going to be getting.
Yeah. They're just
So
winging it. No.
yeah, so
Yeah.
understanding how to be able to at least intentionally trying to change our behavior to adapt to our clients
Yeah.
is the first thing that we do.
So it sounds like the level of emotional intelligence that not only you as a leader in your business, but everybody in your business needs to have is an absolutely crucial skill set for you to be successful in your business. And you're seeing that on the other end of that with happy customers, I would assume.
Yeah, yeah. By and large,
Yeah.
um, it can be tricky to find
Yeah.
people who have the similar skill sets or the same values. And my role as the CEO, in addition to garnering new business, is just being able to like convey and reconvey these simple ideas and create company culture so that everyone has the same care towards our clients as I do.
Yeah.
And ideally, so that everyone, and this is a little bit different side of of my role, so that every one of our team members cares for our clients in the way that I care for them, my team members, and
Mm.
that every one of our team members cares for each other as team members, as I do.
So
Um,
you create the care for the client in many ways, setting the mission, the vision and the culture, but you do that through showing that care for the individuals on the team, knowing that if you invest in that relationship, then that's going to translate to how they behave and operate and communicate with your clients. I love that. That's a kind of a different way of thinking about it. It's not sort of a total top down approach. It's sort of a bottom up approach that I'm going to invest in my people and be a good leader for them and coach and mentor and care for them. And
yeah.
subsequently they'll do the same for the other people they interact with. Huh?
I didn't always have that understanding or that mindset. When I started Ascent and it was just me, I wasn't even thinking about that. That wasn't even on my radar.
Yeah.
And even when we started having employees, I wasn't so much really thinking about it. It was maybe in 2017 we had our max amount of employees in terms of project managers and field team members.
Yeah.
We have less field team members now. The amount of scaling required to be able to self-perform all the things that we used to self-perform, we just can't have that big of a team.
Yeah.
It's a little bit better to for a couple of different reasons to invest in better relationships with subcontractors.
Yeah.
So our internal team isn't as large. But when it was as large, it was we have lunch and learns every month or so where
Yeah.
everyone comes in. I'll talk about a topic, or we'll have someone come in talk about a topic. We'll have some lunch, and it's a good way to be able to end out the week. Um, and during one of those, I just started thinking about how so many of my team members, I'm really fortunate to come from the background that I did. And I started when I first hopped on, I talked about how I happened to had the fortune of living overseas. My team members did not.
Yeah.
And my team members, like I have great parents who I have close relationships with, and I try to be a great parent to my kids. And my team members maybe didn't know their dad,
Yeah.
or maybe went from family to family. And I thought about how like okay, I can be building houses or I can be remodeling pieces of people's houses, but maybe generationally and like long lasting, like eternally, what am I actually doing here, and how can I be able to create something good and provide something good to the people around? And so, um, rather than just not being intentional about that and just creating some sort of product or service, and so I just started thinking about how man these guys that work with me. didn't come from great backgrounds, and like especially with some of them, how much they've been able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and like in spite of all their challenges, they're just like crushing it.
Yeah.
Um,
So
I
there's a
want to be
level
able
of
to,
empathy that there's a turning point where you realize that these people were pretty special and you began to have empathy for them and then acknowledge their special skill sets. And I mean,
yeah,
that's a mindset shift, right? It's like no longer treating them as a commodity. You're
mhm,
treating them as a person and celebrating them for their
yeah,
special skill sets and abilities and their own story that they've,
yeah.
because, everybody's story is different, but some of them may have had unique adversity that they had to
Yeah.
overcome.
So my focus is split between being able to provide a great experience for our clients for all the right reasons, as much as it is split being able to create a great atmosphere for our team members for just the same reasons.
Yeah.
Um, and it's become a lot of who I am and what I think about. And I think that's good. Like I'm glad, sometimes when people there's like a saying about, you are what you do, and
Yeah.
like that can almost be a warning that you don't want to be what you do. Who are you beyond what you do? But if what I do is caring for those outside and inside of our circle, um, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, that can give you some greater meaning to what you're doing. You're not just building a building, which,
Yeah,
you could maybe apply some meaning to that. You're putting a roof over someone's head, you're making a nice environment, but it's more than that, right? You're helping touch people's lives and either creating an opportunity for them or
yeah,
making sure that the biggest investment of their lives is a successful one and that is an emotionally fulfilling experience versus a draining one. I would imagine, right? And that goes both ways for being on your team, I would imagine, right?
So
When
now that like once that's established, everyone on our team, whether they're in the field or whether they're in the office, or if they're like our interior designer, our Melanie, who you might have first talked with, who assists me in sales, everyone now has the freedom to like develop themselves and help be developed and start to bring in those sophisticated management tools, or we do 3D modeling of all of our projects before we build them to be able to spot constructability issues and uh, start to like fine tune our delivery method and like streamline the building process more and more. We have the freedom to do that because everyone knows they're part of like not only a great team, but maybe even like a family. And
yeah,
they're doing this for a great family that they're working for. So everyone's now empowered to do their absolute best work.
yeah. And I think that's something as human beings, I think we can all relate to is this desire to grow as a human being, and that growth comes through personal growth, but because we spend so much time at work, there's professional growth, right? Which is a component of our ultimate personal growth. And having that high level of focus there, um, is absolutely crucial to success building a successful, long lasting team. I would imagine.
Yeah.
How is this? Tell us before this switch, or I imagine anybody who's been in business for any period of time has had some challenges in building or finding or growing a team. Any interesting stories you're willing to share with us? I know these are always not the best stories, and then on the other side of that, I want to understand where is it today for you?
Yeah.
How's it changed?
So on the beginning side, what sort of stories
Well,
would you like to
what would
hear?
be your kind of, you said you had a turning point, you had kind of scaled the company and you'd reached this maybe epiphany that maybe we can't do this internally. I imagine something must have broken at some point, what broke, and,
Yeah.
and you told us a little bit about the mind shift change. So on the back end of that, we'll discuss, how has it changed and what does that feel like now?
hmm Well, I knew it was going to be. I knew hiring my first employee was going to be the biggest challenge. I was actually just talking with a friend yesterday, who's kind of in a similar boat. Um, uh, when I first got started, it was just me. right?
Yeah.
And I'm so envious of companies that start with business partners because it's got to be so much easier. But in my case, it was just me, and I was so focused on providing a great product, what we were building, and a great experience. And it was all on me. And I was actually able to do it pretty well. Granted, I couldn't do multiple projects at a time, and I had to do small projects.
Yeah. Not scalable.
Yeah, and I was able to find good subcontractors to do work and good laborers or daily laborers to be able to help me frame or help me set cabinets or interior carpentry or whatever the case was. But I knew that as soon as I hired my first superintendent, a guy who's going to be running work in the field while I was going to start transitioning only to office-based work, writing subcontracts and thinking about the project
Yeah.
from the back end and garnering new work. That was going to be the hardest step, because now I was entrusting all of these values I'm talking about, not so much people values, but client related values.
Yeah.
I was going to be entrusting that to this one team member who was going to be the eyes and ears on the ground and really executing that. And then I could risk being able to say all these things that I'm saying to you now, but none of it actually materializes
Yeah.
on the ground.
Yeah. Not trust.
Really. So there was no way out that was going to be an Indeed or LinkedIn hire. That was going to
Yeah.
be that needed to be someone that I knew. And I thought I went through a lot of people of thinking about who I'd come into contact with over the past few years, and even in my like previous world, um, and landed on the right guy to be able. I kind of developed that guy from the fifth job that I had, ACI 005. And by ACI 006, 7, and 8, I was using him consistently and started to think about, hey, what would it look like for you to come on? And would you consider being a superintendent? He wasn't a superintendent at the time,
Well,
but he was just a guy with the right skill set and the right
okay.
values and the right mechanical mind and detail orientedness, that he was someone I wanted to develop.
Yeah.
As I developed him over years, if he heard this, he would probably be rolling his eyes. He'd be like, "Well, you didn't develop me. I knew what I was doing." He's a great guy, but as he was developed over years, I just started realizing how the people that I want to bring in, they're also going to be an extension of me, and so I needed to be able to develop them too. And this got me started. It started to get me thinking about when I learned in college years prior about how the median age of a tradesperson is increasing. It's getting higher and
Yeah.
higher, and there's less people getting into the trades. So,
Yeah. And why
I
do you think that is?
how long is this podcast? I mean, all the reasons that I was heavily encouraged to go to college, all the reasons that you might have uh,
Yeah.
done as well. You could say that there's a stigma with blue collar trades
Yeah.
and the construction industry in general.
Yeah.
And like maybe someone would settle by being in the construction industry, and knowing that there's a lot of people who've maybe have criminal backgrounds or like
Yeah.
lifestyle problems in the construction industry.
Yeah.
it wasn't it's not what it was when maybe like
Our parents' ages,
yeah, or like that
probably.
greatest
Yeah.
generation of in the 19 in from the industrial revolution through the 40s or
A
so.
lot of pride in that. Well, I
Exactly.
think we might be seeing a bit of a turning of the tides here with, people realizing that college loans and, incurring
Yeah.
a lot of debt, and that maybe not everybody really should go to college. Or, I mean, I, often reflect, I mean, yes, college was important to me, but I don't necessarily use any of the skill sets that I was taught in college, right?
Yeah.
Like, why did I do that? I think it was more valuable for the network and the relationships that were built, and sort of as just a bit of a milestone. Maybe I wasn't ready to go to work, at
Hmm.
that young age, but I think there's a little bit of hope that people are starting to say, hey, there might be a different path here. But I was hoping you would say some. I think you nailed it when you're talking about your first hire. I mean, there's two big things that I see there. Number one, most small businesses their first hires are through people they know, their network, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why those hires happen are because that they you see you know that person shares your value system typically, right? Like that's why we hire within our network, because I have a relationship with this person. I know them. I've spent time with them, and I know that, I've spent enough time with them to know that they share my values, right?
Yeah.
And then oftentimes they are hires that don't have any experience in the business that they're coming into. Again, the thing that there's in common is there's sort of this shared value system, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned the developing of people, and that's where I was kind of like, I wonder if there's a connection here. So why are there not a lot of new people going into the trades? And then this maybe lack of development piece, right? Because
Absolutely.
if I'm growing, I want to stick with this, but if I'm sort of being treated like a commodity, then I'm probably not going to want to stick around.
Yeah, I don't particularly have a solution for that. I'm aware. So Colorado happens to be an at-will employment, like a free labor
Sure.
type
I
state.
think I don't know any state that isn't actually.
Yeah, so it's not a heavy union state when it comes to residential.
Yeah.
Um, and so there are a couple places to be able to develop guys as carpenters. But I think a lot of development that happens in most trades is at the unionized level. When you're an electrician going through the union, there's training courses in order
There's a formal process.
to grow from apprenticeship to journeyman to master. Um, so I don't have a great solution for that. All I can do is try to develop the people that are in my network that are coming into the fold.
Well,
And
that's a good solution.
yeah, I wish it was a bigger solution. And I hope that again, like, I don't have any secret sauce, and all I hope is that the people who really care about the same world that I'm in try to express the same things to their clients as I do.
Yeah.
I don't really have any aspirations of being a massive company and bringing on hundreds of employees and doing billions of dollars worth of work.
Yeah.
I don't see how the things that I talk about are scalable and profitable from a perspective that corporate America
Yeah.
would need it to
Would
be.
find attractive, right? Well, that's
Yeah.
why they have unions for those types of operations.
Yeah.
How do you find people today?
We will use Indeed and LinkedIn. We rely heavily on referrals from anyone already in our network, and we have a pretty good network of architects, of engineers, of trades people. So like if we're looking for a superintendent, we're really exhausting all the people we know, like who's someone who's been in that world, thinking through competitors and um, uh, yeah, it's kind of an organic
Yeah,
search.
you're still going back to that referral side. Now your network is a little bigger because it's not just you, right?
Yeah.
But I
Actually,
think,
what's funny, one of our employees, one of our project managers, um, who is a 3D modeling expert based kind of project manager, found us through a podcast
nice,
that we happened to be on. And so,
good.
uh, yeah, we were able to bring him on about a year and a half after he heard us on a podcast.
Yeah, so you have the opportunity to come on a show like this and be able to share your vision and your story. And I would imagine that somebody who is going to gravitate to the culture and the ideas that you're sharing here, that's going to create a lead for you, right? And that's a sort of this magnetic kind of lead. There's a force of attraction, and they're coming with a high level of intention, and they see a relationship there. Well, I want to, punctuate that. I mean, look, I think it's often overlooked the power of referrals. I think from the beginning of your story to even today, obviously that you're really heavily focused on leveraging your network because you know that that's going to naturally gravitate people in. Telling your story like this. And so one of the things we'll do for you is we're going to share, you're going to have all this content and be able to chop up some of the highlights here and, use that on your company page or company website. And both your clients will understand this and your future hires will be able to use this content, and you can share it with anybody who's coming into your world. And hopefully that'll either repel them if they're not into that, or it will make it more, make them more excited and lean into an opportunity there. Right. But the power of referral by far is the statistically best way to hire, by the way. So that's based on really well-studied science. So I love to hear that. And I want to make sure that everybody kind of takes at minimum that takeaway there. The other big takeaway that I had from this was the power of investing in your people and how that then is sort of a flow through to your clientele, because as you scale, you can't be the face of your company, right? In every interaction with every customer. And so one of the best ways to do that is show your employees the same level of care and attention, and apply your value system, treat them like your best customer, and they'll turn around and treat your customers the same way. Right. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. So I have two really big takeaways, punctuation marks on this. How can people find you, Justin, if they're interested in coming to work for you or having you help them build their new dream home?
Yeah. Well, I think starting by our website is a great way to do
Awesome.
that. AscentContractingInc.com. That's probably the easiest, quickest way to be able to get a hold of us. And there's of course a contact us page, and I think my email is on the contact us page, as well as our as a sales inquiry email. Yeah, and whether that's clients or people who want it. We also on our webpage we have an about us page, or actually a who we're looking to hire type page that has a profile of who of an ideal project manager, an ideal superintendent, an ideal tradesperson. We had some people in our group do a lot of wordsmithing, talking about who we are as a company, and all these kind of ideals. That particular page, though, about who we're looking to hire, I wrote specifically, so it has a different tone as everyone else. Yeah, and it's really serious. So, and by the way, anyone who I say this on our website, but I would say it right now that anyone who has any sort of background in the services, I mean, are bumped up to the front of the line. It's,
so like, if you've ever been a server or in hospitality or retail or something, is that what you're saying?
I actually mean the armed forces.
Oh, armed forces. Okay, yeah. So
if there's people coming to look for us who have background in the armed forces, I just have the utmost respect for them.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah, those folks, translate very well, and this is a great opportunity for them to take their career to that next level. So, well, Justin, all of that contact information will be on any sort of show notes, anywhere we, Friday shorts or any content here, and of course, we're going to share this with you so that you can repurpose it as you see fit. And really appreciate you telling your story today. Thank you for being on.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you very much, Fletcher.
Thank you so much for listening to our People First Builders podcast. If you're a successful construction CEO and would like to tell your story on this program, please visit our podcast homepage, FletcherWimbush.com/peoplefirstbuilders, or check it out in the notes below. If you got something out of this interview and would like to share the episode on socials, we always appreciate that. Just take a quick screenshot with your phone, text it to a friend, or post it to the socials. If you know someone who might be a great guest, tag them on social and let them know. And don't forget, #PeopleFirstBuilders. I love seeing your posts and guest suggestions. We're regularly putting out new content. To make sure that you don't miss out on any episodes, go ahead and hit subscribe on your favorite podcast channel. Your thumbs up and ratings and reviews go a long way to help promote the show and mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more? Go to our website, FletcherWimbush.com, or follow me on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.